feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now.
Hi everyone, welcome. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you're my patrons and subscribers, welcome back, my friends and family. I'm so happy to have you. So for today's video, the reason why this video is coming about in terms of the topic itself is particularly because recently I realized that I had a vision, and at first I thought it was in this reality, and I thought that when I was watching YouTube, I thought I came across a paleontologist who was explaining that when they were discovering genes within old animal DNA, such as dinosaurs, they discovered genes that are very similar to humans and elephants. And elephants carry what's known as a dormant gene. And basically, a little short story, the dormant gene basically allows the elephant to become immune to things such as cancer. And when they were discovering this with dinosaurs, they also found a gene that humans actually have, with a gene that triggers illness. And so today, what we're going to focus on is not like parasites or viruses themselves. We're going to focus on the genealogy aspect and the genetic aspect of how a zombie apocalypse could come about simply with your own genetics and your own physical and DNA makeup. So I apologize in advance for a lot of you guys that were waiting. For some reason, the Wi-Fi is achy ever since the wind, really strong wind started coming through Long Island in New York. So I do apologize. But anyway, I do hope you like this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Don't forget to share this video with others, as getting us out and more public will help allow people to become more educated about genetics overall. So let's jump into this. Hi, Angel. What's up, love? So this is being live streamed on February 20th, 2022 at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here's some quick disclaimers that you see on your screen. You can pause the video if you would like to read them. Please keep in mind this video is just for entertainment purposes only and for education purposes only as well. A lot of the information that I can provide to you is research-based, but also information from my own intuition. You can kind of tell the difference when you start to read the data. But don't worry about that. I'm here for you, right? All right, so now if you're a little hi BT, what's up, love? So if you're wondering how this is possible and how this could come about, now this is not something that you should be scared of. It's a technological investment and future of science overall. It's such a great thing, but there's always a slim possibility that we can accidentally trigger a zombie apocalypse. Just for example, a genetic mutation that turns the gene that's dormant back into dominant. And I'll explain what those words mean in a minute. But I just want to quickly kind of explain everything, kind of go break it down step by step, understanding how genes work and understanding everything overall. So the first thing that we're going to discuss is I'm going to bring my whiteboard here. Now, if you just want to go to the part of the tarot card reading, you can jump to the timestamp in the description below in the comment section. Now, if you're watching this live, unfortunately, we are filming while you're watching, so you cannot have the luxury of doing this. But before you do jump, I do recommend you sit and watch this educational portion. Otherwise, when I do my readings, you may not understand the tarot cards. So the education is necessary with the tarot card reading. So I do hope you enjoy this presentation I'm going to show you. Okay, so here's a little, here's my whiteboard, of course, right? And today I'm going to kind of explain to you how genetics work. Now, the last time a lot of you guys may have understood genetics was probably when you were in high school. And for some of you guys, that might have been quite a long time. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through it and understand how genetics work on an understanding basis, a very simplified common man version. Okay, so how do genetics work? Well, I'm going to use different color code bases just to kind of help you grasp what it is that I'm showing you. Okay, so let's take a look. So this is the gene. This is the DNA strand, okay? This is what a DNA strand looks like. It looks like an S with a reverse S, okay? And then both of them share different genes, and in those genes carry little lines, and those lines look like ladders, but those are not ladders. those are DNA and those are DNA genetic. Now I'm starting to see on the screen here that you may have some trouble seeing the whiteboard. If you do have trouble, definitely tell me in the live chat now. If you're having trouble, I can put more lights on. But anyway, besides the point, this is a gene. This is a genetic gene. And the reason why understanding how genes work, it must have come from a vision. So I had a vision about a few weeks ago. Not sure where it came from. I tried looking for the video because I wanted the physical proof to show you guys, but apparently the video does not exist. And it was on my YouTube channel, and it was under the history, but it never showed up, which meant that it never actually happened, and I must have been in my dream where it was so lifelike I couldn't tell the difference besides that one video. And so I'm going to show you a little image to give you a little bit more of a deeper understanding of genetics and DNA overall. So you can see here on the screen right now we have the DNA strand. So you can kind of see adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, which is also the phosphate backbone. So that is the S that I drew on the wall here, and those lines are different DNA strands. These are genetic sequence that basically makes up who you are as an individual. This is the reason why you look the way you do, the way you smell the way you do, the way your hair is, the way your eyes are. It's because of this genetic code. And that's what's really interesting here. The fact that the genetic code is makeup here. Now you're asking, well, why does this have to do with the zombie apocalypse? The zombie apocalypse, actually, when they was discovering, they found an elephant, as a fun fact, by the way, in case you did not know that fun fact, elephants are immune to cancer due to the zombie gene that protects them. So basically, that's the very common definition that I gave you. It basically means that the immune system is immune to cells and basically allow the body to attack mitochondria, and it's cells that are no longer functioning as should, which is very different than the way the human body would. So, for example, in scientific terms, the course of the elephant evolution, a cellular mutation inserted a genetic switch next to LF6, enabling the gene to be activated by P53. The retroactive gene now makes a genetic switch next to LIF6, enabling the gene to activate by P53. The resurrection gene now made a protein that could do something new, attack mitochondria and damage cells. So that's basically what it means, that they believe that with this understanding that it can make the elephant immune to cancer, because they have this ability to understand what cells are damaged or what are not normal, known as zombie genetics, zombie gene, which is actually, now they're actually looking into zombie genes and figuring out, well, how if humans don't carry the gene, how can we insert that gene into human to make them immune to certain diseases? So this could be the next step of medical evolution. Now, would this be a great idea? I don't know. I will have to see what the cards will have to say. But as of right now, on paper, it sounds like such a great idea. Okay, so but that's not even all. Even if we have the gene, we could technically, even if we don't have the gene, we could technically add it into our genetic makeup via transgenetic. So basically, transgenetic is basically where, just say you want a tail, and just say humans don't have the gene to create a tail or even have a tail. What they could do is they could take a genetic makeup very similar or even polar opposites, and they could take it from a monkey with a tail and insert that genetic code into human DNA, add in an extra, let's just say brown. Actually, let's use black, right? We'll just use the black one, right? They add the genetic code, which is the black, it's the tail. And now it's added into your genetic makeup, which now that when you have kids, you could, or even you yourself, you're going to start to develop a tail. And so that transgenetic is basically meaning that you are a hybrid. You are a mix between two different groups. And so you're considered a hybrid. You're basically what's known as an Indominus Rex, which is basically considered a hybrid dinosaur in the Jurassic World, where they took a mixture of different animals, combined them together, and then called them a hybrid. So that's what you will be in that case. That's transgenetic, taking it from somewhere else that has it, that's not completely related to you, and inserting into genetics makeup to create new mutations of some sort. However, making our own hybrid human that's immune to cancer, thanks to studies on living dinosaurs known as birds, scientists are currently in the process of reverse engineering chicken back into the ancestral past, and more lizard look than its feather look. Basically, I'm saying that they are trying to take a chicken and reverse evolutionize it back into a dinosaur, which is the original historic preference. Now, if a lot of you guys may have not known that during the age of the dinosaurs, most of them were not dinosaurs. Most of them were birds, or most of them were lizards. So, for example, the pterodactyls or the lizard, the big brontosaurus with a big neck and a very big body that was herbivores, those were lizards. The ones that were very aggressive and vicious, those were birds. Those were theropods like Tyrannosaurus rex, Velociraptors. Those are the very big popular bird-like dinosaurs. Unfortunately, they're known as non-avian dinosaurs because they died out during that time period. However, we do have living dinosaurs as birds have a direct correlation to dinosaurs. And I can show you why. We'll talk about that in another video in the future, and why dinosaurs are very key to our evolution. Scientists have been able to identify a gene in humans that cause diseases. By studying dinosaurs, we learn how our own genetics work and genes work and what they are for. So basically, it's meaning that when they were discovering and looking at the genealogy of the living dinosaurs, such as chicken, they found a correlation and understanding. So basically, think of the game Clue, right? You may not understand when you take a genetic makeup of, the say, a human DNA. There might be some things that may not make sense because they're not turned on, so you don't know what they are until they're turned on. However, some of those genes are shared among different animals who are related to us. It could be birds as well. We could be related to birds in some way, in some branch where we branched off and became mammals, but we all share one ancestor. But with that being said, a lot of those animals may carry those same genes, but those genes may be turned on, which might be the key for us to unlocking understanding of genetics and how that works and how it comes to be. Another thing that I really want to talk about and focus on here is, let's talk about this. Understanding how genetics work. We already spoke about the DNA and how the DNA can be inserted through transgenetic and how you can create mutation. Another thing that we also need to realize is radiation. Radiation and vaccines and medicine all have an effect on your body. Sometimes viruses and bacteria have such an effect, they can allow, just say, for example, a superhero. Think of a superhero. So I'm going to draw like a stick figure. Okay, do not judge my drawing, but this is just for understanding, okay? So I'm drawing a stick figure, right? And you ever seen like one of those things where you're making your own avatar on like video games or stuff like that if you don't play video games? In your mind, think of a picture of a person and think about different characteristics and features that you want the individual to have, and you have this whole selection. So for example, eyes. Right? And you know how they have you choose different color eyes and different eye colors, and you kind of get to design your own avatar. Well, basically, a lot of those things are recessive and dormant. And so dormant means they're asleep, they're not turned on. They're there, but they're not turned on. The ones that are dominant are the ones that are being used currently. Those are the dominant traits. For example, let's put, for example, blue-eyed people with blue eyes like me, right? That is a very recessive gene among majority of the population. However, it recently showed up in the record only a few thousand years ago. And so what that means is that it may have been something that we may have had, but it was a very recessive trait or a very dormant trait. I mean, when the time was right, it remerged back up. And so the way radiation would operate was radiation would take any mutation, anyone that could fit into, very similar to an enzyme. So if you don't know what an enzyme, okay. So if you don't know what an enzyme is, the enzyme is basically just like this photo. And in this photo, we have almost like a puzzle and a substrate. Substrate is the natural chemical compound within the human body. However, the product is the reverse. And so basically the product is basically that understanding. So think of it like very similar to it going to the store and buying a puzzle, right? The puzzle is something that can fit, it's going to work. So for example, just say you have a key, you took a key to your house, but you didn't realize if you took your key, it can fit into someone else's lock. It won't fit in all of the lock, but if you try hard enough, you will find a lock that will open the door to someone else's home with your own key that unlocks your home. And so basically meaning that those radiation can trigger something that's very dormant and come into mutation. So for example, fish with teeth, that's something that it can be triggered. That is a very dormant gene, but radiation over time can trigger those genes to come about. And so that's why when people say, oh, DNA, medicine, vaccines, or even radiation can trigger mutations of some sort, those are just revitalizing those ancestral genes that we once had that are no longer deemed useful and therefore turned off. So, for example, when babies are born in a mother's womb, babies, like humans, have tails, but over time there's a gene that turns the tail off and reabsorbs it back into the body. And so basically meaning that we still have the gene for a tail if we wanted to grow it. It's just not part of our evolutionary future, as we don't need to climb a tree and hang by a tree with our tail. We don't need it. It's not a required trait. However, we have it over time. We can lose those ancestral traits and they could be gone forever, basically meaning they cannot come back. Now, a thing about evolution is actually they have told us that evolution is a one-way street where basically you move from one place and you keep evolutionizing. The thing about me, though, is I believe the exact opposite. I believe that there is possible and a possibility where we can actually reverse engineer and reverse evolutionize back into a monkey. Because if we have the evolutionary trait already, wouldn't it make sense that and also possible that we can come back into monkeys again? It is possible because we carry those genes such as body hair. People say Bigfoot or werewolf. It's necessarily true. It is true that we carry those genes. A werewolf is based on the idea and the concept of evolutionary traits back then, where it was more common where people and men or women had a lot more hair, and therefore that's the mythical idea of werewolf came about, was due to genetic mutation or even the ancestral past coming up. So for example, snakes sometimes will occasionally have their leg show up, and part of that is just because it just shows up in the record. It's not common, but it's a rarity nonetheless. It's not a defect. We call this in a medical way defect, but they're really not defect. Those are just ancestral traits that are useless, and they just accidentally show up on our bodies or other animals' bodies. So really how that works. Now, going back to dinosaurs and why it's very important to understand it and how they help us understand the zombie virus, basically speaking. If you forgot what an elephant looks like, here's a very cute little elephant trying to wake up his buddy. So, anyway, what they have found is that this is a Tyrannosaurus rex, right? This is a dinosaur, and here is a chicken. And you can kind of see over time the evolutionary trait where the theropod dinosaur evolutionized into a chicken. So if you love meat, you will love a dinosaur, because if you curry like chicken, I can only imagine how good the meat's going to taste on a dinosaur. But besides the point, this is a dinosaur. This is the concept that Jack Horner, a paleontologist, proposed to the science world. That what if we took a chicken, the chicken skeleton on the left side, and what if you reverse engineered it back into a dinosaur? Remember, chickens are dinosaurs by definition. However, they're not dinosaurs because they can't attack you and eat you and stuff like that. That's not a really true dinosaur. That's a Jurassic Park dinosaur. But a dinosaur in the essence is the look and feel and our idea and understanding of dinosaurs look very different to a modern chicken. And so what they have done here is they already are almost done with the completion of a chicken. So what they have done is they took the big hand, they already inserted, they found a gene, the genome, and by using the sequence and genes in the DNA, that allowed them to be able to create that big arm, that big claws instead of wings, right? What they have also done as well, they've been able to make the human the way the dinosaur sits and change the femur. So instead of it at a certain point in the chicken, it stops growing, right? You ever wonder why your chicken bones only have such small legs? Really, they expand to a lot bigger margin. Now, the only thing that they have struggled with here when coming to this evolutionary trait is that they struggle with the idea and concept of how to put teeth on a chicken. Now, the chicken already had the gene for teeth. But what they don't have is the enamel. So that enamel is very important for teeth, as that is a protective coating that prevents erosion over time. And so that is a gene that they have lost over the evolutionary trait. However, they also, as well, lost the ability to have a tail. So those two genes alone are very they're lost. They cannot be brought back. They would have to be taken from another animal and made into a hybrid. So basically meaning that if this is not a true original dinosaur, it will be considered an Indominus Rex or even considered a hybrid. And so that's what's really important here, is the understanding that transgenetic can make a dinosaur from a chicken. So here's an image. Now, this is not a real image, but this is an image that was made to very closely resemble what they're aiming for, right? Now, these chickens are very small, and it would make sense for them to evolutionize. So here's another photo where it talked about the fibula, right? The tibula, right? And how they're able to manipulate it in a way by making it go from a chicken on the right side back into a dinosaur using their most ancestral traits. And so what they have found here as well is that they've been very successful at making a chicken leg back into a dinosaur leg, very similar to the way that they used to walk back then. And so they're almost done with their full completion of making a dinosaur. And so the reason why this is very important is to understand that transgenetics. In order for them to bring back that tail and that enamel, they would have to take it from another dinosaur, another animal that has the gene. So, for example, maybe an ostrich may carry the gene for a long tail, and so they could take the ostrich gene and put them in the chicken, and the chicken will now have a tail. But it wouldn't be a dinosaur because they're taking it from another animal and inserting it called transgenetics, which is why the reason why I brought this up is how the understanding of dinosaurs and how to recreate them at the same time is allowing us to understand how we can create and evolutionize and how to advance our next step in genetics and understanding how we can go from here in terms of evolution in our future. Hi, Sarah. What's up, love? And so, that's a lot of information, so I do apologize. I hope it was very informative. Now we are going to jump into the main part of today's video. And so let's do some tarot, right? I'm sure all of you guys been waiting for that. I hope my explanation was clear and concise and very informative and understandable. So if it was, please let me know for sure, because I want to make sure I do a good job at helping you understand and grasp the concept and ideas of it. That is something that's very important for all of us to understand when listening to what I have to say and what the cards have to say in today's video. All right, so let's jump in. Okay, so let's jump in. So the question that we want to ask here is it theoretically possible for a zombie-like apocalypse to be possible without an actual virus? I have never explored the question. I thought it was a very interesting question. Now, if you are coming in and you just hopped on, everything will be timestamped in the description below, along with in the comment section as well. Now, this is a vision that I got. It's something I found out that I was having a vision that was so lifelike and so realistic that when I went to go actually find the video that brought about this video topic, I couldn't find it. And what I ended up finding was that it was something that was in my vision and not something that was actually I see on YouTube, which is weird, but it had happened many times before. So yeah, anyway, besides the point, let's take a look at this. So spirits and angels tell me, is it theoretically possible for a zombie apocalypse to occur without a physical virus? Okay, we have the Knight of Swords here, right? And it tells me, the Knight of Swords kind of tells me that in the past, it was possible, but it wasn't, if that makes any sense. It feels like we have the genetic makeup of it, but over time, we ended up losing it. We ended up losing that genetic makeup that allowed us to become domesticated and maybe become immune to certain diseases, which may explain how some humans back then, during the biblical time, with, the religious aspect, you're talking religious here, lived for so long is because they probably acquired the zombie gene. We have here as well as we have the Page of Cups in reverse. And the Page of Cups is almost feels like to me that a lot of people in today's world, at least our genes of humans, right? There were many different versions of humans. our species of human, Homo sapien, does not have the dominant gene. At least not now at the moment, right? But what I do see here on the right side here, I do see the magician card. And the card that comes up in the picture and images that showed up in my head when I saw the card was laboratory or something that's done in a lab, a mutation of some sort. So I would not be surprised if in the future there's a genetic makeup that allows humans to acquire a dummy virus gene that will allow us to be able to become immune to certain viruses. So I do feel like this is possible for transgenetic to occur. So I do have my little Dombey tarot deck. I remember to take it out particularly for this particular question and for today's video. I thought it would be interesting. Now I will be doing later on in today's video. I will be not this video, but in the next live right after this, I will be covering Titanic. And I had a feeling for quite a long time now. I was supposed to cover it 2 years ago when we first started the channel, but I never got around to it. I had a feeling that the Titanic was going to sink. Now, if you're wondering, well, Chris, the Titanic already stunk. They remade the Titanic, and it's set to sail this year. So I wanted to take a look at that. So we'll do that in another video. Just wanted to let you know ahead of time if you're interested. Okay, so Spirit Angels will tell me, is it theoretically possible for a zombie apocalypse to occur without a virus? Look how cool that looks. Okay. Now, I don't like to use this stuff, particularly because it's very dark, so I do apologize in advance, but, yeah. Okay. All right, so it's nudity, but it's not like nudity, like a frontal nudity. It's back nudity. So what you do see is a butt. So if you don't want to see that, I'm just pre-warning you. Okay, so we have a woman standing, right? And this woman is kind of cold. She's like hugging her and stuff. But in the background, you see a group of people charging after her. And what I see here on the left side here, I kind of see like more of like people in like the medical suits, so particularly like during the pandemic where people wore like hazmat suits but in white. That's what it looks like on this side. On this side, it kind of felt like the gene itself. And what I'm seeing here is it theoretically possible for us to have a zombie apocalypse. Yes, it is theoretically possible, but it would have to be in a lab. It would have to be done by a lab. So it would have to be a gene mutation of some sort, or even an insertion that inserts into someone's body that triggered the start of a zombie virus or the start of a new era, so to speak. That's the best way to put it. Is that it feels like to me as ready, it will have to be done and made in a lab, even for it to become a reality of some sort. It's not something that will just automatically trigger. Now, like I said earlier in today's video, when I was explaining how genes work, vaccine, medicine, as well as radiation are one of the possibilities that could trigger a dormant gene to become reactive. And so this is a possible as well that one of those things are just a medical breakthrough on discovering how things work and how someone is cured of some disease, but in the afterterm, the effect of those viruses or vaccines turn on other dormant genes, and therefore you have mutation. That's why people say, oh, I don't trust the vaccine because it has mutation. They're not wrong about the mutation aspect, but they're lacking understanding that those type of things just naturally to trigger things to turn on and off, kind of similar to a light switch. And so those things are very well possible. The next question that we have here, is it possible that it's already built into our DNA and doesn't need a trigger, something to turn on a dormant gene? So a trigger, like I said just a couple of seconds ago, vaccines, radiation, stuff like that. And it's theoretically possible that it can occur after, let's say, a nuclear fallout. It is possible if there's enough genetic mutation and it just hits it just right, like the enzyme, like I showed in this picture earlier in today's video. If it fits, it's going to turn on. If it does not fit, it will not turn on. So it's very similar to that model. Okay. So Spirits and Angels Tom, is it possible that it's already built into our DNA, the zombie gene? Is it already built in our DNA? I just thought today would be a very interesting topic. I did a little bit different than what I normally cover. So I do hope you like today's video. Okay, so is it built into our DNA? We have a 2, and it's the 2 of Pentacles. And kind of like what I'm seeing here, it's like It's iffy, but it's not a yes. It's also not a no. It's not like a straight answer. They're not giving me a straight, definitive answer to the question. It feels like it's kind of like jumping around it. Like they're not really giving me a definitive answer. Potentially, these three cards will answer it for me. Oh, that's dark. Okay. We have here as well, we have the Knight of Swords here. And the Knight of Swords here kind of talked about like evil. So what it's referring to here is that if it was to be turned on, you know how in the movies they kind of show you like a zombie coming after you and attacking you and saying brain, tiny brain, tiny brain. No, what it's actually telling me here that the way zombies will naturally work with the gene is they will have to have a murder gene, which I will explain the creation of murderers and the making of serial killers in another video, and how they're created and how they're made and how it's evolutionary fault for it, why we have them in the first place. But in order for you to become a full-blown dummy, in the essence of what you see in the television movies and the Hollywood movies and stuff like that, you would need to have the murder gene, and you will need that gene on if you want to go kill people. Now, that is just for entertainment purposes only. Okay, I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying that you should be doing that. But if you have the gene, you kind of can't help it. You're going to do it anyway. We have here as well, we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is interesting because we have the Knight of Swords here and we have the Knight of Pentacles. And what's interesting as well, I just noticed as well, if you look at the Knight of Swords here, we have him holding a knife with blood dripping. But in this photo, we have the Knight of Pentacles with the bird dripping of blood, and it looks like as if the bird has been stabbed. And if you look at the way that the cards are positioned here, you see that guy is facing the guy with the bird, and the guy in the bird is upset and angry that he killed the bird. Now, the reason why the bird is very significant, we just spoke recently about dinosaurs being a relic of dinosaurs. And in this case, ravens are definitely relic of dinosaurs. And so what it kind of tells you here that, you know, the person may have had good intention going into this, but the idea behind it brings about a very if a person goes insane, it's kind of similar to a nuclear war, right? Nuclear, right? When they were making a nuclear bomb, somehow, some way, they had good intention when making it, but somehow someone who gets corrupted enough goes mad and then starts to use those things to harm others. And so that's what I'm seeing here as well. It's one of those scenarios where someone would use it just for the benefit of whatever thing they want to gain from it. We have here as well, we have the Three of Pentacles, and this is kind of scary as well. We have power. So if they were to gain anything, it would be power. Maybe potentially the dominant gene would make people dumb. Maybe even so, it may make them immortal. It could potentially make people immortal, and that could be one of the driving forces that would make this a reality. But if it's in our DNA already, it feels more than anything else, it will be a laboratory experiment because we have the dinosaur here, what's it, the bird. And it kind of tells me already that they will need to have to learn about genetics and understanding the code a lot more before this becomes a possibility. But once it becomes a possibility, then anything is possible. Now we're going to take a look at is it possible for the gene to turn on? Because it's dormant right now. If the gene was there, it feels like already that it's not here. We don't have it in our DNA. I said this early in the video. But what I feel here is that if they were to add it, how would they make it turn on? Okay, so we have the Four of Pentacles here. And the Four of Pentacles kind of tells me, it kind of feels like it's food GMOs potentially. Maybe they're putting chemicals in food that will easily trigger this gene to turn on. Yeah, Angelic, I'm taking questions. I just covered them after my question. We only have about 5 questions total, so you can feel free to ask in today's video. We have here as well, we have the Three of Wands here. Now, the question does have to be related to the topic of some sort. If you get tied to the topic, then I'll cover it. If not, I'll have to use that question to make a separate video. All right, so is it possible that it's already built in our DNA? No, it's not possible, but it can be built into our DNA through just transgenetic. Now, is it possible for them to turn it on? How would they do it? They would turn it on with GMOs, and it would be done by pesticide. So I do feel like pesticide and climate change are one of the big factors that would turn this gene if it was to be added on. Actually, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of swords. The one I kind of see here as well is that some of this stuff may be of illegal substances. So potentially drugs might be an easy way for it to be transmittable. So it'll be kind of like a blood-borne illness of some sort. Or that's how it will start out, at least. It will come through, like, just say you were doing heroin, for example, and you shot yourself up on the arm. It feels like in some way that transmission of blood from someone else who was using the same needle into your bloodstream will transfer that DNA, or even potentially that DNA into the next person. Now, the question that I would like to ask now is that thing contagious? Because if that's true and it can be transferred through the arm, that means in some way, how can it be contagious if it's not an actual virus? You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get in my head right now as well. If it's not an actual virus, how is it possible for something like that to even be transmissible? Is it maybe because you swallow the DNA of somebody, maybe like saliva, and you kissed them, or it got into your bloodstream somehow and then affected that way? But I mean, let's take a look. Maybe it attacked the bacteria and illness that goes in there, and that's how it spread, kind of like has this host, but like reverse. Okay, so Spirit Angel tell me, how does it spread? How does it spread if this dummy thing was to be created in terms of the gene? How would it spread? Is it contagious? Is it contagious? Okay. Okay, so I heard from my guys in my right ear. They told me it contagious via the mouth. So I heard it's contagious via the mouth. So if it was to be created, it's not an actual virus, it's a DNA strand. It's contagious via the mouth, and it likes to go for open wounds in someone else's mouth, and that's how it's transmission. It can also be transmitted through saliva as well, or even like open wound on the skin, where maybe potentially, like if someone was talking to you, how like you have a little bit of spit coming out. If that spit lands in that wound, it will infect you. And so that's what I'm seeing. We have here as well as we have the moon card in reverse here. I'm just kind of show you the way the cards are set up. We have the moon card here. It kind of tells me here already. We already know, we're very familiar with the process of how things spread. And so it kind of feels like it's going to keep with the status quo here. We have here as well, we have the Empress. Bacteria like antibodies and stuff like that, those type of medicine will not be effective if this was to occur. And the reason for that is because it's a DNA strand. It cannot be over time turned because it's not an actual virus. It's a DNA strand that could easily, it's uncontrollable at that point. The basically meaning that if you were to get it, the only way I think possibly that you can like protect yourself, you would have to radiate them to the point where they're burning and exploding through the flesh. That's basically one way to get rid of it, because it's not a virus, so you can't cure them in the way that you think you can cure them. Now, maybe there is a cure for it, but it's not possible at the moment. At least I don't know enough about science to really point to a cure for it if it was to happen. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have the eight of wands, and this card always confuses me sometimes. But what I'm kind of seeing here, that there's so much information, it kind of feels like when this comes about, people are gonna kind of refer it to like the old days. And the old days would be considered COVID-19, influenza, and people will kind of like, make it appear as if it was not something that they should be worried about it. I almost feel like the media is going to attack us. The media is going to cover it up. And if you ever seen like Don't Look Up, was it a TV show? Highly recommended. It's about a movie where I'm not going to spoil it, but it's basically about a movie where a president, Madam President, tells the people, her supporters, not to look up at the sky when the signs are saying that there's a high chance the asteroid is going to hit Earth and wipe them all out. So instead of them taking out the asteroid, the corporate greed and people in high positions of power lobbied against it and made it impossible for them to get the mission done and the asteroid destroyed them. And of course, don't look up. And then people looked up, and by the point they looked up, it's already too late. And so that's the kind of the same idea here, that people are going to do whatever it is. They're going to deny. Then when it's too late, when they realize it is already too late. So the end of the card here, which well is the contagious part, it's not through through a virus. It can take over a virus through their DNA and manipulate the DNA in a way that it'll be very odd to understand. But it kind of feels here as well that it could also be manipulated through water. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe it might be in what's the word? Brackish water, which is kind of like a semi um mix of like salt water and fresh water, but like really dirty. It could be that water as well. So like maybe like Africa would be like the great way in understanding the water quality here, or even Michigan, or even Arizona. And so we have that here. That's what I'm seeing here as well. So the contagion can come from environmental factors, and it could also be as well here. Now that I realize that, you know how I talked about the don't look up? It's possible that the concern with pollution pollution is another factor of radiation, what we spoke about earlier, and how it can mutate the body and the cells in the human body and the genes to mutate it back to its ancestral traits. Well, it's theoretically possible, right? That potentially that these corporations who are participating in stuff like this lobby against the health and well-being of other people, that they're doing this stuff illegally just for short-term gain for long-term problems. What I've seen here as well is that it's theoretically possible that this card could symbolize here that corporate greed is enough to potentially trigger dirty water was made ultra gened and therefore caused the virus to become contagious. Or I should not say it's the virus, it's not a virus, but potentially become the DNA could be mutated to give the image and look of it mutating and spreading, even though it just spread through corruption and greed and negligence against other people and people in general, right? So that's what I'm seeing here. Okay, so you ready to answer that? The next question is, if it needs a trigger, would it be a virus or something that related to, for example, radiation or UV light? So yes, we already answered already in today's video. Particularly, it has radiation, UV light, viruses, vaccine, anything could possibly trigger it. It just has to be the right condition and the right enzyme to fit into it, kind of like a puzzle. And so, if you have forgotten already, it's kind of like this: the enzyme has to have the same structure level to fit in, and if it fits, it's going to work. If it does not fit, it will not work. That's why some people are easily affected by other variants of COVID compared to others, because the enzyme may fit into somebody's blood cell and affect them, whereas others may not have that same enzyme, and therefore they are immune to that specific variant. And so that's a little interesting in case you did not know that, a little bit of science there. It's interesting to know. Okay, that's awesome. That's really cool, because normally, actually, when I do my data on my channel, my analysis, I actually have 65 and older people watching my channel. Majority of them are women, and that's actually, believe it or not, is actually 99.9% are women, and 99.9% are people 65 and older, which is kind of interesting data result in terms of analysts, and analyzing all my videos since I started my channel. And that was interesting because it really highlights here that my channel is meant to help people within that specific age range and also gender, but it may change over time as I may potentially gain more people. As of right now, I'm still losing, and so that's okay. I accepted that, which is good, because I'm able to keep the people who are meant to be on the channel and help them. You find topics like these interesting? Yes, I'm good. I'm glad you find them interesting. You're here for a good time? Yeah, I'm here for a good time, not for a long time. That's what I always say. I want to go in the ground looking pretty, you know. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys liked today's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, with the bell icon if you have not already. I will be going live in about 40 minutes, and I'll be doing a Titanic reading on Titanic 2. And I'll be talking about how I feel in my intuition and kind of like already know that the Titanic is going to sink. Now, no, the Titanic already has sunk in 1912. However, they recreated the Titanic and it set the sail from Australia to India back to the UK, and then from the United Kingdom all the way back to New York City. And I have a feeling that it's going to stink. And that has to do with the Doomsday Glacier, which, as you may have remembered when I asked you what video types you wanted to see, how natural disaster is tied into Titanic and how climate change is going to sink this boat, basically. So I'll see you guys in 40 minutes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.